Hello everybody, this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, with another Healing Matters podcast and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and I haven't done TikTok yet, but so this is a show on healing and health matters and other things like that. Today we're going to talk about taping a bruise. Taping a bruise, called rock tape or Kinesio tape. It's like a bandage, but it does more. And in particular, a bruise. If a person's ever fallen and has a bruise on their body from, let's say, falling on a rock or falling on a trampoline, or sometimes bruising happens more when you're older, which is a sign of blood flow issues and stuff like that. But even a kid can fall and get a bruise. You fall off your bike, you bump your elbow, these types of things. You've had those injuries before where, you get hit by a baseball or fall, and like even in the wintertime and fall on the ice or something like that. An injury that later then produces a bruise. And a bruise that first starts off, so when it first happens, it doesn't necessarily bruise. So it's not broken the skin. You don't want to put the tape on where the skin is broken. You want to wait until the skin has healed. And if it's something that's caused a scab or something like that, you essentially want the scab to heal. By that time, then you can put taping on stuff like that. But what I'm talking about as a bruise is definitely do not put it on open skin. Don't put it on area where, you've basically, let's say a road rash, this type of thing, don't put it on that. Don't put it on where the skin is burned, and so like say a sunburn type of thing. That's definitely another thing that you don't want to put the Kinesio tape on. But I'm talking about, let's say, a bruise. And if you can see, I'm on a podcast, you're just hearing my voice, but online you can see on Facebook and also on YouTube, and later I post these, you'll see pictures. And what I'm doing is showing pictures of what a rock tape application looks like on bruising. So, and you can see, I'm holding this picture up, and picture up is a person, and you can see, like say on their leg by their knee, they've fallen down, and it looks like it's that black and blue bruise, bruising, that type of thing. Or here's another one, a picture of now this is after the rock tape, so you're seeing the striping pattern. I'll describe what that looks like. It looks like a waffle. Like you imagine a bruise on your thigh or on your knee, and that starts as black and blue, but then after you put the taping on it, and I'll describe the way that you put the taping on, it's like a waffle cut. It looks like, one of those waffle cut fries, okay? So what does that mean? That means that the bruised area so if you just left the bruise alone, let's say it's a big round patch and it starts off as black and blue, and then it starts to get purple, and then towards the edges it starts to get kind of green, and then eventually it goes back to normal skin color, which is normal skin color is now the bruise has gone out of it. Well, let me see if I can have another picture. Now those ones were some good pictures, okay? So putting Kinesio tape. Now what's Kinesio tape or rock tape? Rock tape is if you watch the Olympics years ago, and if you see a lot of athletes right now, it's that tape. So the athletes, like the professional athletes, especially like the volleyball girls, that volleyball, two women volleyball team were, I think, the first one in the media that we really saw. But now we see it like Michael Phelps. You'll see it on, Simone Biles. You'll see a lot of this stuff, which is rock tape or Kinesio tape is a different type of, it's not just a bandage and it's not just an ace bandage. So let's say you twist your knee, you're going to wrap an ace bandage around that, and it keeps compression on it. Now, rock tape does some compression and expansion because it's very elastic, and it's designed to be this specific type of webbing mesh that when you tape it onto a part of the body, and there's specific ways of taping it and ways of cutting the tape and all this other stuff. But basically, you're putting the sticky side down, and it's this fabric tape that has like I said, an elasticity to it. But instead of just doing, let's say, an ace bandage where it would squish it. So an ace bandage is squishing the tissue. The rock tape, what it does is it actually does a lifting, it does a stretching, It does a compression and decompression, and it also provides a lot of what's called proprioceptive receptivity, meaning it makes your brain think about it. Now, Kinesio tape is used a lot for people when you have an injury. So you twist an ankle, or any of these types of things that can even be without a bruise. What happened is you injured yourself deep inside. Now, if you have a bruise, what is a bruise? A bruise means that some sort of a twisting or a compression, you fell down on the curb or something like that. That blunt force trauma inside the body caused breaking of blood vessels. You basically tore your hoses, and now you've leaked blood into this area, and blood then pools into this area. Now, why does it turn black and blue? Because, like your veins, the blood that doesn't have oxygen in it anymore is blue. Okay, so and then when it starts to turn purple and green and stuff like that, gangrene, is that gangrene? Kind of, not really, but what it is yes, it's a waste product. It is a toxin. So the reason that the injury creates the bruise is you've broken some blood vessels, and now it's just kind of leaked. So like you spilled gasoline on the floor, and now it's there. And so your body has to do something to clean it up, right? But because the blood vessels were broken in that area, the ability to carry that blood back out of there has been broken. Those hoses has been cut. So now stuff just kind of sits there. Now, the bruising can be associated with pain, and sometimes not necessarily, but usually. So is there a connection between bruising and pain? And is there a connection between an injury and damage in the inside and the signals of pain? Because most people, when they have a trauma, they go, I just want the pain to go away. But the pain goes away when it is cleaned up and it has regular blood flow going to it. And in particular, the dirty tissues that got broken out of that. So I use this analogy, which is your cell. Imagine your cell is like an orange sitting on the table. Okay, it's an orange that still has the skin on it and it's not been cut, right? If that's, or a lemon, if it sits out on the table, doesn't even have to be in the refrigerator, it won't rot. It will just shrink and dehydrate and shrink and dehydrate, okay? But if you cut it open and let some of the juice spill out of it, even just a drop of the juice, that's where the mold will grow and it will rot. And then because the juice so again, same thing as a cell, a blood cell or a muscle cell or something like that, bone cell, these are all kind of cells, which has fluid and stuff on the inside of it, okay? You break those, you rupture those, and when that spills out, and if it's not contained, if it's not, if the bottle's not closed, then it will start to rot. So the body has to take that rotting fluid out of there in order to have it be fully working the way it's supposed to, but also for it to clean itself out so it doesn't get sick from the bad tissue that's floating around there. So one of the reasons why it is recommended to do kinesio taping or rock taping over a bruise is, again, going back to the pictures, if you could see, you put the kinesio taping over this area of where it is. And if you see it afterwards, it kind of looks like the grill marks, like a crosshatch grill marks that's on a hamburger, okay? But what it is that there's places where the bruising is. So as I said, if you just let the bruise heal on its own, what would it do is it would go in stages, and it would get smaller and smaller in diameter and then change color and go through its phases of color until it finally goes back to normal skin color. So if you see this kinesio taping picture, it's stripes of regular skin color and also stripes of the bruise color. And it looks like a waffle pattern. What it means is you put the tape on in strips in a crosshatch manner. And they sell them in these preformed ones, but you can also cut them yourself. And you get the wider ones and you cut them, or you can even just cut out strips. And you just lay it down over the bruise. You put a bit of a stretch on it. And then and the best way to do kinesio tape is don't put it on skin that's not been clean. Don't put it on oily skin because it won't stay on. And especially on a bruise, you want to put it on the bruise and let it be there for like 5 to 6 days. And it will stay. This is the great thing about this tape is if you prepare the area right, which is clean the area off, dry it off, and then use a alcohol wipe. You can isopropyl alcohol, you can use vodka, you can use the methyl alcohol, which is again stuff that you buy at like those alcohol wipes. Okay, so an alcohol wipe will take off the oils, and then let that dry, and then you put the tape on. And typically, the way to put the tape on is you now with this one with the strips is you can take them and make them long, and you put the whole thing under a stretch. So you kind of stretch the ends, hold your fingers onto the ends, lay the tape down, then smooth it out from the middle to out, and then take those very last ends on, and then that tapes down. And what you do is you're making a crosshatch pattern of where they cover, so it's one layer of tape going one way as like these strips that are separated in between. So it would be like a strip, and then so you'd have taped skin, and then maybe a portion of the same width of that same, that's how far you spread it out. So it will be tape, the width of another piece of tape, but that's where you don't tape. So you just have your bare skin there, or that's where you have the bruise there. And then another strip of tape going the same way right next to it. And then, so you skip spaces. And then you put another piece of tape going the other way, which is like you're making an X pattern. Not like a cross pattern, but like an X pattern. But even if you do a cross pattern, it's still just cross and lay that other strip exactly going the other way, like a crosshatch pattern on top of that other tape. And then you let it be, and you leave it on. You can shower with it. It'll stay on for, let's say, 3 to 6 days, and then you peel it off. Now, some people have a reactivity. I have a reactivity to this type of tape, which is it can kind of leave a little bit rash, but it's just because of when I tear it off. So I found a good way to tear it off, which is you can go into the shower and get it hot, and then that type tends to melt the glue. But I also found another way, which is you basically rub butter. You rub an oil, so you could use like an olive oil or a butter, and you rub that into the, this is when you're trying to take it off, so it doesn't pull on your skin. So it's not like a Band-Aid that you rip off and go, woo! And I'm a hairy guy, and sometimes, ripping it off, if I don't do that, then I rip a bunch of hair off. But if I put some oil and some butter down on it on like the 4th or 5th day, then I'm able to pull it off, and it comes off real easy, and it doesn't leave a rash type of thing. But one of the reasons why you want to do this on a bruise is because the faster you get that bad stagnant blood flow out of it. So if you see, again, this picture, the faster you can get to the skin looking the regular skin color as the non-bruised skin around it, that means it heals. So you can speed the process up. Again, if you could kind of get inside and massage it. So Kinesio tape is also kind of like, it's part of our normal reaction. So there's a whole thing about how does your brain turn your pain off and send healing to an area. It's touch. And people know this when you stub your toe, one of the first things you do is you grab your toe and you hold on to it. You don't squeeze it too hard, but you put your hand on it. Or you even, after it then heals, you pet it. Or let's say a little child, which is their elbow, then you blow on it. You cause there to be more signals. So the stub toe or the bruised or the area of injury, what the Kinesio tape does is it puts a stretch and a pull. And so especially if you tape it on an arm or a leg or your back or your neck, every time you move, including you can put it on your ribs, every time you even breathe, it's putting a stretch and it's a compression, and a stretch and a compression. Now that helps to pump the tissue that's underneath, to squeeze out with the bad air, in with the good, out with the bad blood, in with the good blood, out with the bad lymph, in with the good lymph. It's basically cleaning, it's washing you. So a bruise means that, it's an old stain, and basically how are you going to get that stain out? You have to wash it. So the Kinesio tape helps to speed this process up dramatically. And if you could see these pictures of, because I've done it before and I've seen it on people, it's amazing, is when you take the tape off of a bad bruise, like one of those big ones on your thighs, like it literally is like, oh my God, like it's completely like taking that stuff away. And then the second application is you basically tape on the areas where you still see the bruise. Same thing, 3 or 4 days, and then the bruise will be completely gone. Okay, and it's amazing what it does. It causes a lifting, and so it's actually causing a negative compression on a compression injury. So it's very helpful. This is really good for, kinesio taping is also really good for the neck. If you got a bad neck and that where it's like, oh my God, it's so hard to, when you go to turn back out of the driveway and you twist your neck or something like that. Taping right on that actually really has been very, very helpful in terms of reducing the pain, increasing the movement. Basically, it's like constantly massaging it, but it's also deeply adjusting it, kind of like getting a chiropractic adjustment. And it really speeds things up that heal a lot faster. But and then you can also do it for what's called edema applications. Edema. So let's say grandma and grandpa that got the swollen ankles, they have a swollen knee. Their knee is big and swollen, and then it gets into what's called pitting edema. So let's say pitting edema would be, let's say, when you put your socks on and then you take your socks off and, it leaves a ring around there, but that ring lasts for an hour, right? And if you were to push into, let's say, your tibia or your the shin bone, or not the bone, but right in between the bone where the flesh is, and if you push into there and it leaves a dent, that's edema. That's this dirty old fluid. And a lot of people get edema starting in the feet and the legs, and then it moves up into a knee, or you can have an injury that then turns into edema. So part of the swelling, or that, let's say, the bruise, is you can also have a lot of fluid that's in there in edema. That's especially around a joint, you can get edema, and then that makes the joint hurt. So if you've got bad knees, bad ankles or something like that, and you've got that edema, how do I get the edema out of there? There's special massage techniques, and you can use compression type of thing, but quite frankly, the rock tape, they also make edema tape and instructions and everything. And so you can go to the rock tape website, which is within Kinesio Tape. Kinesio Tape is this type of sports tape, but it's not just like the Rocky when he would put tape around his elbow or around his arms or his fingers or something like that. That's the old time athletic tape. That stuff is not elastic, it's not compressive. So this rock tape, which is the best brand, I think, because they make the most different types. It's the best well made. It lasts the longest, and and then also they provide all these instructions, so you can go to rock tape and look up edema or look up bruising, and you'll see these applications of how to do it. Now you can go to rock tape, the website, and you can order the tape. You don't have to be a physical therapist, or you can go even to let's say a Dick's Sporting Goods. You'll now find it, let's say you go to a Myers and you go to the sporting section, you'll find this in like a CVS or a Walgreens or anything like that, where they have the Band-Aid and stuff like that. That one's what's called Kinesio Tape. I don't like that brand as much because it doesn't stick as well, but that's why I like the rock tape better. But also, so this tape is very, very widely available. You can get it anywhere. And you kind of can't mess it up if you just remember, if you have a place where it hurts or it's stiff, just put an X on it. Put a piece of tape that goes this way, put a little stretch on it, and then tape it down, and then put another, stretch it the other way, and then put an X on it, or put a cross mark or an X right where your pain is. And then the tape kind of overlaps over, so you're basically taping an X on that. Now the edema applications is similar to the bruising, which is, it's a very special way of taping it, but it's just like making, strips, and you tape these strips on. And say you have edema in the knee, that pitting edema where it's just like, grandma, like your knee is like, it feels like it's jello inside there. Or it's going to happen to a younger person. It doesn't matter. So the edema means it's the lymphatic flow is not flowing, and it stays there, and instead of being a liquid, now it's turned into like a jelly-like substance. So it's like jello. When you make jello, first it's a liquid, it's water, it's a colored water, colored sugar water, and then you let it sit in the refrigerator, and then blah, 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 then it becomes solid. Then it becomes this gelatin. Well, that's what edema is. And it can be, think about your knee trying to bend inside of jello when it was used to be bending inside of water. It's going to put pressures on the knee or the elbow or the ankle or the feet or stuff like that. So the edema applications of the rock tape will squeeze this stuff out of there. Will actually clean it out, because when it squeezed the jelly out of there, then fresh blood flow in it and lymphatic flow, which is still liquid, will go back in to replace it. So you'll squeeze the jello out and put the water back in, thereby making, and then also reduce the pressure, because edema on a knee or an ankle can literally put pressure on that ankle or the bones or the muscles or the tendons, and that is causing pain. That's also causing, so like edema in the feet or the ankles means you don't feel very good to walk very much. And then you don't walk very much. And then what happens is just you go downhill. When you don't walk and you don't move and you don't use something, then that's where arthritis will set in and stuff like that. And then again, you're going downhill. So the answer for reducing pain is getting the movement in there. So putting movement in a bad achy joint, if you could just move it, then that would keep the pain out of there. But if it hurts so much that you can't move it, then you got to do something to relieve the pain. And typically people with, like, say, arthritis and edema and swelling in the knuckles and the ankles and stuff like that, all they'll use is anti-inflammatories, drugs. They'll basically use something to just block the pain. Now, maybe they get some massage, and maybe they do some physical therapy, and maybe they do elevation, but it's nothing compared to, once you stop moving your hands, you're done, right? Whereas, and once you stop doing the manual massage, it's not working anymore. Whereas the Kinesio tape is, as long as the tape is on there, and it's taped there, it does its job, and it doesn't lose its elasticity. So it's as if, let's say you got a bad ankle, it's as if walking with your trainer doing massage on it 24/7. And especially when you walk and move it, so it means it actually will increase your movement. The tape causes this weird proprioception where it's almost like your hand feels like you're touching it. So if you rub your knee for a while, you'll feel it, right? But eventually your brain will turn it off, and then you won't feel it at all. Then you become numb to it. And so truly, the better thing about numbing the pain is not actually drug numbing the pain. It's actually through using this brain to say, I'm touching it, now I'm going to block it. And because it's constantly being touched, now I'm going to basically say, oh, that's normal. So like when you first put pants on, you feel the pants, but half a minute later, you don't feel the pants anymore. You don't feel you're wearing pants, because eventually those sensation receptors that are being set off, they're not necessary for your brain to pay attention to it, because, like, of course I know I'm wearing pants. But I do need to know when I'm sitting on a rock. So it will turn certain sensations off because it's overloading the thing. And so the same thing is when you go to touch a toe that has been stubbed, you think, well, why would you touch it? It's going to make it hurt more. No, the more sensation of non-hurt that goes in, that's why ice works and stuff like that, is because that's another form of receptors. The more signals you send into it, it drowns out the pain signal. So it literally makes you not think of the pain and not feel the pain because you got other things going on. So rubbing is something, and again, that's what the Kinesio tape will do. It's always sending a signal, because every time you move, it has a stretch and a pull and a stretch and a compression and decompression. So it's always doing something. It's doing something good in terms of pumping the bad stuff out, but it also helps the body to heal, because one of the reasons you don't move very well, or let's say putting on a person on your neck, one of the reasons that your neck hurts is because your head is forward and you got bad posture. One of the reasons your back hurts is because you got bad posture. But when you sit up to think about having good posture, you forget it and you just immediately go right back into it. Whereas, so you're trying to fix a person's neck through posture, Kinesio tape is always sending a signal there, which means it reminds you, it's almost like a person comes up and taps you on the back and says every second going, remember, sit up straight, remember to sit up straight. Or when you're walking, which is remember to don't step wobbly, remember to step better. It forces your body to think about it, but then it forces the brain to stop thinking about it. So you don't think about you're doing your posture, you do it because it becomes automatic. It goes back in the brain. That's how the brain works. So part of the kinesio taping is one of the reasons it helps with pain is because it gets you to move more without pain, and then the movement that you do squeezes the bad stuff that's causing the pain in the first place. So you see that a lot of pain is this loop. It's a feedback loop. If you could break the loop, then you can get out of pain. And then a lot of times much of the pain in, let's say, bad ankle or knee or something like this, because you don't use it very much, or you don't use it right, or you're limping on it. Or let's say you're limping on one leg, eventually you'll have pain, more pain on your good side because you're compensating for it. And so Kinesio Tape can even be done. Let's say a person says, yeah, I hurt my toe and I limped for a week and now my other hip hurts. Oh my God, it hurts like bad because I've been compensating for it. People know about this. But what do you do about the compensating one? It's not injured, so you don't put a Band-Aid on it. Well, you could put Kinesio Tape on that one, and then that will help to then fix that one too, because the reason that it feels bad is because you've been overusing it and using it in a way that you've not been used to, and you've done some damage. The pain means there's some damage. So rock tape, Kinesio Tape is definitely something that you can think about any part of damage you can do. Now, there's a couple people, like a bruise, I would not put I'd be very careful on an old man or old lady that have that papery thin skin. You know, you get grandma that like it bruises at the drop of the hat. That's something deeper. That's something definitely, and if you were to peel it off, you might peel some of her skin off. So those are not necessarily people, and if I did, I would be very careful as I did it, and I would use some sort of helpful removing type of thing, be delicate about how I put it on. I'm not saying you can't do it, it's just you got to be more careful the thinner a person's skin is and stuff like that. But let also be told that this can be used on children, this can be used on babies. You get a baby that has injury or something like that, and you can put the Kinesio Tape on it and it helps to heal the area. But today's show, like I said, is if you could see these pictures of what it looks like with that cross hatch of the bruising. It's really amazing looking. And it, normally a bad bruise like that will take literally, 4 weeks to sometimes even a month and a half to go away. Like you'll still have that bruise. But with the Kinesio Tape done for the bruising method, you could have it gone in less than a week. You could literally have it where it's like 3 to 4 days, you peel it off and like the bruise has completely disappeared. It's spectacular. And then the same thing with this edema, which is you got the people that have the really swollen ankles or knees or something like that. You put the Kinesio Tape on it with this edema method, and it's amazing how quickly it squeezes that stuff out of there, and now they're able to use it better, and then that keeps the edema from flowing in there. It keeps it out of there. So again, rock tape is my favorite one of the Kinesio taping. You can always come into my office. I do taping on people, and because sometimes it gets complicated, and literally on some of the rock taping for the bruising and edema, I cut my own strips, and it literally takes a good half an hour to tape a nice good sized bruise because you're very meticulous about it and putting it on. But you're gonna, like I said, it stays on for like 4 days, up to 8 days. I've stayed on people. Eventually, it starts to kind of peel off, and then it's lost some of its elasticity, so you get rid of it. But typically with a bruise, is you leave it on for like anywhere between 3 to 6 days, and then that 6th day or whatever you take it off, it's like, oh my goodness, and it starts to feel better, and it starts to go back to its normal movement. So that's something that you can do for this. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. I invite you to press the like button because you liked what I had to say about your health. And also press the subscribe button to be able to easily find me and also be part of this. I look forward to helping you reclaim your health naturally.